Have we met somewhere before? As soon as the beautiful CEO, Patricia Brown, saw my face during a business meeting with my boss, Mary Johnson, she seemed to recall something. Mary, who stood in front of me with a fake smile, dismissively said, "He's just an incompetent newbie," in a mocking tone. After the meeting ended, while Mary flattered Patricia, I started tidying up quietly. "I've been looking for you." Ignoring Mary, Patricia stood before me and took my hand. "Miss CEO, what do you mean, you were looking for this incompetent guy?" While Mary was shocked, Patricia looked at me with tears in her eyes. Little did we know, from this moment on, Mary's fate, who had always looked down on others, would drastically change. "My name is Robert Jones. I work at Williams Trading Company and I'm 53 years old. Although I joined this company 2 years ago, I have had various job experiences before. My life, in a word, has been tumultuous. My father was a capable businessman who traveled around the world. My mother and I lived in various countries because of my father. Thanks to that, I learned to speak about 5 languages fluently, starting with English. However, when I was in 8th grade, my mother got tired of the globe-trotting lifestyle and divorced my father. My father, who had mastered English on his own after the war, believed that anything could be achieved with effort and determination. So, he couldn't understand why my mother, who became more reclusive and stayed at home, didn't socialize more. He even asked me, "Why doesn't your mom go out and meet people?" with genuine confusion. I, either because I took after my father or because I was a kid, adapted easily wherever we went. I didn't have any complaints about living with my father. But when I compared him, who seemed fine on his own, with my mother, who cried every day, I decided to go back to the US with her. My father looked a bit sad at the time and said, "I see," but quickly returned to his work. It was the peak of the economic bubble. Japanese businessmen were everywhere, and working was profitable even without much effort. So, my father found work incredibly exciting. And so, I returned to the US with my mother. My father paid a substantial alimony and child support, so there should have been no worries about my education expenses. However, my mother's brother, my uncle, had invested in real estate and persuaded my mother to invest as well, and that's when things started to go wrong. At first, things were going well, and my mother's family was quite prosperous. Then, when I was a high school senior preparing for college entrance exams, the economic bubble burst. My uncle, being an amateur investor, quickly fell into debt with no way out. My mother had entrusted him with my college funds, leaving us penniless and forced out of our home. I managed to graduate high school but couldn't find a proper job, so I looked for work while doing part-time jobs. My mother became reclusive again and eventually stopped getting out of bed. She was severely depressed, although at that time, depression wasn't widely recognized. She lost her appetite, became thin, and eventually succumbed to a cold. It happened just after I turned 20. My uncle disappeared, and his family moved away, cutting all ties. I was left alone, but my father's traits helped me avoid becoming too pessimistic. Fortunately, I didn't have to inherit my mother's debts as I waived the inheritance. After that, I tried various jobs to find what suited me best. I worked in the food industry, service industry, construction, manufacturing, and more. I also developed an interest in computers and taught myself programming, eventually becoming a software engineer. But none of them felt like the right fit, and I couldn't see myself staying in any of those jobs forever. Before I knew it, I was nearing 50, and I knew I had to make a change. That's when a friend introduced me to Williams Trading Company. Williams Trading is a mid-sized but stable company, and the work there suits me well. The employees are all friendly, and even though I'm new to sales, they've been kind and taught me a lot. If only it weren't for that person. Yes, my one complaint at Williams Trading. That person is my boss, the sales department manager, Mary Johnson. "Hey, Jones." A sharp voice lashes out at me as I work at my desk. Yes. I rush over to the source of the voice, Mary, and she yells, "You're late. I always tell you, when I call you, come within 3 seconds." As expected, an old newbie has slow reflexes. Tapping her desk impatiently, Mary glares at me. "I'm very sorry." I bowed deeply. I knew from experience that if I didn't, she'd yell at me even more. "Okay, fine, just be careful next time. So, have you prepared the materials for next week's meeting?" "What? I was told the deadline was the day after tomorrow." "Is it? Who said that?" "You did, Miss Johnson." Before I could finish, a thick stack of papers was slammed onto the desk. "Who said that?" "I'm sorry, I must have misunderstood." She snorted in response. "Isn't that right? Be grateful I corrected your misunderstanding." "Are your ears going bad because you're old? Hey, why are you just standing there? Hurry up and prepare the materials." "Yes, thank you, excuse me." I responded politely and turned to go back to my desk. Again, I thought to myself. Since the day I was assigned here, Mary has singled me out, finding faults and going back on her words just to attack me. Why is this happening? Is it because I'm a 50-year-old newbie? I muttered to myself, and my colleague next to me gave me a sympathetic look. Our eyes met, and we exchanged wry smiles. But we didn't say anything out loud. Once, when a colleague tried to help me by offering some extra materials, Mary saw and harshly scolded me. Of course, I was the one who got scolded. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to bother my busy colleagues. Since then, everyone realized that being kind to me in front of Mary would lead to even worse treatment, so they stopped speaking up openly. But they would secretly help me when Mary wasn't around. That's why I can't quit. Besides, I don't dislike sales work. I really am my father's son. I grumbled to myself, feeling a bit amused. Still, what should I do about Mary's attitude? As I hurriedly prepared the materials, I thought, I guess I'll just have to work at least 2 days ahead of any deadline, not trusting the given dates. So, I tried to stay ahead of my tasks. "Jones, what about those materials?" "Here it is." "Jones, the estimate for the next project." "It's done. I've also got approval from the manufacturing department." My strategy was working, and even Mary couldn't complain. My colleagues were impressed, saying, "Jones, you're amazing." I thought I could finally relax, but I soon realized how naive that was. At first, Mary seemed taken aback and would say, "Oh, okay, or well, that's fine," but she quickly started getting irritated. It seemed that not being able to vent her frustrations on me was doubling her stress. "Jones." Her calling voice was already filled with rage. "Yes, what is it?" You. She had called me over but didn't seem to have anything to criticize. I mentally reviewed my tasks to see if there was anything she could fault. Nothing. I was safe. I told myself not to cower in front of Mary and stood before her with a serious expression. Mary glared at me, trembling with anger. She was probably searching for an excuse to blame me. After staring at me for a while, her face suddenly brightened as if she had thought of something. "Jones, that plant over there is wilting. Have you been watering it? You haven't, have you? This is negligence." She finally decided to blame me for something unrelated to work. "Miss Johnson, that's your precious plant. I was told not to touch it," I said cautiously, and her anger exploded. "Even so, as the most junior member, you should take care of it, or do you think it's fine if a younger manager's plant dies?" "No way." She scolded me while slamming the thick documents on the desk. Perhaps because she hadn't had a reason to lately, she seemed even more intense than usual. "Anyway, you may be old, but you are new to this department. You need to be attentive to everything and not annoy me." Breathing heavily, Mary said this with an oddly satisfied look. "I understand, I'll be careful," I answered, overwhelmed by Mary's intensity. I realized that no matter how hard I worked or if I slacked off, It didn't matter to Mary. She was tormenting me to relieve her own stress. Unbelievable, at this rate, she'll blame me for dirty windows. I sighed as I returned to my desk, noticing my colleagues looking at me and Mary with tense expressions. Even the nicest people must think there's a reason why Miss Johnson targets me like this. I felt incredibly miserable. But deep down, my determination started to grow. All right, if that's how it's going to be, I'll prove myself through my work. I began working even harder than before. I researched our products, visited the factory, and gathered information about their strengths. I incorporated this into my presentations and pitched to clients. The results were positive, and I secured several contracts. Great, if I keep proving myself, even Miss Johnson will have to acknowledge me. Age doesn't matter. So, I continued achieving results. Of course, as Mary instructed, I also took care of the plants. It seemed that Mary's treatment of me was gradually changing. With my solid track record, even Miss Johnson can't complain. Besides, her irritated attitude has eased lately. Finally, my efforts are paying off. I started to think. But Mary still had no intention of accepting me as a colleague. I realized this just 2 weeks later. "Jones, come here for a moment." Mary called out to me, unusually cheerful. "Yes, what is it?" I quickly approached her desk. "This company we're about to sign a new contract with is very important. I'm scheduled to go, but Jones, you're coming with me." "Wait, me?" I couldn't believe my ears when she said I'd accompany her to such an important client. "Yes, you've been securing some small contracts recently. It's a good time for you to experience a big project. Don't worry, I'll be the main contact. You just observe my work and learn." Mary was actually saying something reasonable to me. I was even more shocked. I was too surprised to speak. "What, do you have a problem?" She glared at me. "Some things never change." "I'm honored. Thank you for the opportunity." "My pleasure." Mary's grin was a bit unsettling, but I was too excited about the new, big project to worry about it. "Nice to meet you. I'm Mary Johnson, sales manager at Williams Trading." Mary handed her business card to Patricia Brown, the CEO of Castle Mountain, with practiced ease. "Thank you. And who is this?" Patricia looked at me. "A stunning beauty. This must be what people mean when they say that." I was overwhelmed by Patricia's beauty as I met her for the first time. I'm Robert Jones." It felt like time stopped for a moment, but I quickly recovered and hurriedly handed over my business card. "Robert Jones." She stared intently at my business card and then looked at my face. We met somewhere before?" Patricia murmured as if trying to recall something. "He's just an incompetent newbie." Mary cut in between Patricia and me, saying this mockingly. Then she continued loudly. "Miss Brown, thank you so much for choosing our company this time. Castle Mountain is a company that Patricia founded, and it has grown rapidly over the past few years. They primarily deal with beauty products targeted at women. But they have shown interest in the products Williams Trading handles, leading to this potential contract." "No, thank you. It's an honor to have the sales manager herself come, and with a veteran employee too. I'm sure you can handle any questions or requests we have." Patricia smiled warmly. Mary is tall and has sharp features, and I thought she was quite beautiful, but Patricia is on a different level. Even among beauties, there are ranks, I realized. And Patricia has an air of elegance about her. She exudes sophistication. Having seen Mary bang on the desk with thick documents while yelling profanities almost every day, I couldn't possibly call her refined. "Of course, now, Jones, please explain." Mary coolly threw a bomb at me. "What, isn't the main negotiation supposed to be handled by you, Miss Johnson?" I couldn't help but ask back. I was sure she had said I should just observe and learn. "What are you talking about? You insisted on doing it, so I entrusted it to you. Surely you didn't come in prepared." She glared at me with a look of disbelief. No way. I was set up. In an instant, I realized it. Instead of tormenting me at the office, she had now resorted to humiliating me in front of a client. Despite the risk of jeopardizing the deal, what was she thinking? In her eyes, there was a mad gleam. Seeing that, I thought. So that's why she's been so quiet lately. She was planning this moment to trap me. The gleam in her eyes as she sees my bewildered face shows her delight. But I won't give in to her. I steeled myself. Understood. What? Miss Brown, please take a look at these documents. I took out the materials for the contract from my briefcase and handed them to Patricia. Then I began my explanation. What? Wait a minute. Miss Johnson, I'll give you a copy of the materials as well. I handed the documents to Mary, who stood there with her mouth agape, and continued my explanation. Patricia glanced at the scene but listened to me without interruption. Eventually, I finished the presentation and asked Patricia, "That concludes my explanation. Do you have any questions?" "Thank you. I understand very well. I have a few questions, but I'll summarize them in an email later, so please respond to those." "Yes, thank you." Patricia and I shook hands firmly. "What, Miss Brown, does that mean?" "Yes, there doesn't seem to be any problems, so we'll proceed with the contract, and Jones will be in charge." "Yes, thank you very much." I thought I heard Mary grinding her teeth beside me, but I accepted the role without hesitation. "What, Jones, you?" Mary couldn't hold back her voice anymore. Patricia's calm voice cut through the tension. "By the way." Both Mary and I looked at Patricia. "I've been looking for you, brother." "What? Brother?" I couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. Mary seemed just as shocked. "Yes, brother, it's understandable you wouldn't know. I'm your half-sister. My name is Patricia Brown." Patricia smiled as she approached me. "Half-sister, are you saying you're the daughter of my father, James Smith?" "Yes, Brown is my mother's name. My parents divorced as well. But I got along well with my father. We kept in touch until he passed away 3 years ago. He often talked about his son, Robert, who he assumed had taken his mother's maiden name, Jones." She looked at me with amusement. "Brother, you resemble our father. Not so much in looks, but in your demeanor during business meetings and certain expressions. By the way, I resemble my mother, so neither of us looks much like James." "I see." I was surprised, but Patricia's stories seemed genuine. Besides, there's no reason for her to lie to me when we're trying to secure a contract. Her words brought back vivid memories of my father, filling my heart. I'm surprised, but I'm glad to hear this. I've been alone since my mother passed away. I lost touch with my father. So, he passed away 3 years ago. Yes, he was an unusual man, but I loved him. He always worried about you. After the economic bubble burst, he came to the US once to look for you but couldn't find you as your mother's family had scattered. So, my father did try to find me." I smiled. Just knowing that he didn't forget about me and tried to find me made me happy. As Patricia and I continued talking, Mary, who had been ignored, cut in with an irritated tone. "Excuse me, but could you sign the contract?" "Of course, I will." Patricia signed quickly and tried to hand the documents to me. "No, I'll take that." Mary swiftly grabbed the documents, almost snatching them away. "Miss Johnson, we're leaving." Ignoring the surprised looks from Patricia and me, Mary quickly started to leave. "Excuse us. We'll see you soon." I hurriedly apologized to Patricia and followed Mary. "Miss Johnson." She ignored me and kept walking, leaving me at a loss. We eventually arrived back at the office. As soon as we stepped inside, Mary whirled around. Oh. Her face was terrifying, like a demon's mask. "I have a lot to say to you, but..." She spoke in a low, strained voice. Why did you have those materials for Castle Mountain? And they were different from the ones I had you make. They were more detailed and included information I didn't ask for. After telling me to accompany her to the meeting, Mary had handed me a hastily scribbled note saying, "Make the materials based on this." I made the materials based on that note, but I felt it wouldn't effectively convey our products to the client. So, I put together additional information I thought the client would want to know and prepared my own set of materials. I kept them in my bag, thinking I would use them if Miss Johnson's explanation fell short. I prepared them as supplementary materials. When you told me to explain, you didn't give me the materials you intended to use, so I had no choice but to use mine. What, are you saying this is my fault? Mary shouted, clearly displeased with my response. In the end, the client understood the materials well, so it's fine, isn't it? Yes, and that Patricia Brown, what was that? Your sister, long lost. It was a total tearjerker. It seems there's quite an age gap. Your father must have been quite the active old man. Disgusting. Mary's mocking words made me snap. She could say whatever she wanted about me, but I wouldn't let her speak ill of my parents. Miss Johnson, that comment was inappropriate. It's a violation of company compliance. Are you angry? It's ridiculous for someone your age to get upset over a few words about your parents. Mary said as she pushed my shoulder. She pushed hard enough that I stumbled a bit. Stumbling from a push by a woman, you really are getting old. That arrogant CEO said you'd be the point person. But you should decline. Tell her I should be the one in charge. My stumbling has nothing to do with my role at Castle Mountain. I have no intention of stepping down from the position I was assigned to. As our argument grew louder, we attracted the attention of people in the lobby. But we were so engrossed in our fight that we didn't notice. That's enough, both of you, stop it right now. A loud voice suddenly interrupted us. We turned to see John Williams, the president of Williams Trading, standing there with a stern expression. Mr. President. Mary turned pale and covered her mouth with both hands. Look around, everyone heard your argument. Now, both of you, come to my office, we'll continue this there. He commanded with an undeniable authority, and both Mary and I followed. Yes, I apologize, I said sincerely. Good, and you, Miss Johnson? Yes, I'll go to the president's office. Mary nodded, looking defeated. All right, come on then. With that, we were led to the president's office, a place we rarely entered. Explain yourselves, Mr. Williams demanded as soon as we entered. Before I could speak, Mary started talking. Curious about her explanation, I decided to listen quietly. But I soon regretted it. Because everything Mary said was a blatant lie. She claimed that I regularly shirked my duties and bossed around younger colleagues. She said she had tried to guide me properly many times, but I never improved. So, she had decided to bring me to the Castle Mountain meeting to show me how to do the job correctly. But instead, I ignored my work and chatted with a relative, then got myself appointed as the point person just because of my personal connection. According to her, I should have declined the position, but I shamelessly accepted it, showing a complete lack of professionalism. She argued that someone as old and disgraceful as me should be fired and replaced with younger, more pliable employees. So that's her story. Do you have any rebuttal, Jones? Mr. Williams looked at me, his eyes cold as he glanced at Mary, who was panting after her tirade. Yes, I have plenty of rebuttals, I said, and then I methodically dismantled Mary's accusations. I explained that I never shirked my duties or bossed around colleagues. I added that anyone could verify this by speaking with my co-workers. I mentioned that Mary's constant harassment and tantrums had been unbearable, and that I kept records and occasionally recorded her behavior on my phone. I can provide that as evidence later. Regarding today's meeting, Miss Johnson only told me to observe and learn. But suddenly, without giving me any materials, she instructed me to present to the client. It was clearly an attempt to embarrass me. The client must have sensed this, which is why they chose me over Miss Johnson for the important deal. Miss Johnson claimed you prioritized personal matters. What's your response to that? In fact, I have a father I haven't seen since my parents' divorce. I recently discovered that the CEO of Castle Mountain is my half-sister from my father's second marriage. I admit we talked about this, but only after the business was concluded. The client understood and respected the boundary between business and personal matters. I revealed everything to the president. Mary tried to interrupt several times, but Mr. Williams silenced her with a stern, "Be quiet." After I finished speaking, the president looked pained and deep in thought for a while. Then he left the room, leaving us there. "You'll regret spilling all that, remember this." Mary hissed at me in a low voice. Knowing the security cameras in the president's office, she refrained from shouting or physically confronting me. "Sorry to keep you waiting." Mr. Williams returned after a while. His expression had changed, now visibly angry. "I just spoke with Miss Brown from Castle Mountain. Her account matches exactly what Mr. Jones said. That's because she's his sister. She's obviously covering for him." Mary turned pale and nearly screamed. "I merely asked her how the meeting went. I didn't share your version or Mr. Jones's." So Patricia had told the truth. Of course, she had. Even if she weren't my sister, she wouldn't lie to cover for Mary. What was she thinking? Assuming she wouldn't be found out. "Miss Johnson, you've made a grave mistake. You tried to sabotage an important meeting by humiliating Mr. Jones in front of a client. What would you have done if we lost the contract? Blame him and hope it wouldn't come to light. Also, your daily conduct is a major issue. We will investigate this. Until your punishment is decided, you are to stay home. This is unfair. You're going to keep this useless old man who bounces from job to job and get rid of me, someone valuable." "What are you talking about? Mr. Jones is not useless. True, he has changed jobs often, but he has excelled in various fields. I consider it an honor that he joined our company, and he has achieved results in sales, hasn't he? He's a versatile talent." "Versatile, not useless." Mary stared at me with wide eyes after hearing Mr. Williams's praise. Embarrassed, I scratched my head. I'm flattered to be called versatile, but I just followed my interests and tried different jobs. However, I always put in my best effort in every position. That attitude has built your impressive career. I once spoke with the CEO of the IT company you worked for. He said the system you created is still in use and making a significant impact. He couldn't believe you were self-taught. Yes, that's right. I designed it so that anyone could use it, not just me, ensuring everyone could understand the system. Miss Johnson, you pride yourself on your abilities, but what would happen if you were suddenly gone? Mary looked startled by the sudden question, but answered defiantly. Everyone would be in trouble, of course, because no one can replace me. That's the problem. I believe it's important to ensure everything runs smoothly even if I'm not there tomorrow. That's for the benefit of my colleagues, our clients, and the company as a whole. Thinking that no one can replace you is merely self-satisfaction. Self-satisfaction. Mary was about to raise her voice again, but she noticed Mr. Williams's sharp gaze and fell silent. Yes, until you understand that, you won't change, I said, and she looked down, frustrated. That's right. I also need to ensure that my absence wouldn't disrupt the company. Now I understand why none of your previous employers had anything bad to say about you. Mr. Williams murmured thoughtfully. Despite being a manager, you only think of yourself. It's truly disappointing, and I share some blame for not seeing this earlier. He added with a wry smile. As Mr. Jones said, self-satisfaction doesn't belong in a managerial position. It seems you lack the ability to recognize your subordinate's potential. No. Unable to bear it, Mary collapsed onto the desk and started crying. Crying won't help. Go home for today, and don't come back to the office until you receive further notice. Mary was sternly ordered to leave. She reluctantly stood up and left, looking deflated and unlike her usual confident self. "Now, Jones, you've had quite a day." "Yes, I'm grateful you didn't take Miss Johnson's words at face value and listen to me as well. So, do I get your approval as president?" "Absolutely." We both extended our hands and shared a firm handshake. "I hope you'll stay with our company for a long time. I find my work fulfilling here. I hope to stay as long as possible." "That's great to hear. I look forward to working with you." A thorough investigation into Mary's behavior was conducted, revealing her mistreatment of me and similar attitudes towards other mid-career hires. It turned out she had a strong aversion to people with diverse job histories. Ultimately, due to her compliance violations and actions at Castle Mountain that could have severely damaged the company, Mary was dismissed. Now, with a long road ahead of her, she would have to do the very thing she despised: find a new job. I wondered if that hysterical and arrogant Mary could adapt to a new environment. I heard through the grapevine that she found a new job but soon caused trouble and quit. She repeated this pattern, causing issues and leaving each new position. Eventually, she couldn't get hired as a full-time employee and had to make do with part-time jobs. A colleague told me they saw her working and overheard younger co-workers saying things like, "That old woman is useless," but they couldn't bring themselves to say hello. "Brother, over here, this way." Since then, Patricia and I have kept in touch outside of work. She's become the family I hadn't had in a long time. Today, she brought me to visit our father's grave. "Hey, Dad, it's been a while. Almost 30 years have passed since then." I clasped my hands together and greeted the small grave. "In the end, I became a salesman like you. I'm not traveling the world, but I enjoy my work. I'm doing well, so don't worry, and thanks for bringing Patricia into my life." As I finished praying and stood up, Patricia peered at my face. "What were you talking about?" "That's a secret. It's a conversation between men." Laughing together, we walked forward into the sunlight without looking back.